This podcast is starting with a phone conversation I had with a client, as many of them do. And the conversation began with, after hello, how's it going? What's on your mind today? And the owner of the company said, Tom, where's my reward? And then he just paused for a second. And so I paused for a second. He didn't say anything. So I said, tell me more. He goes, I've been doing this for 25 effing years, and I am still dealing with the same BS and the same problems. And I can't leave the business alone, and I can't look away. And when is it all about me? Where is my reward? And trust me, I've had this conversation with quite a few folks, but it begs the question, what do owners really want? And I'm going to break it down for you today because there's some things that we can take care of, and there's some things that will then show us what we need to work on. Here's how we get through it. Thanks for listening today.
Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now on to the show.
So what do owners want? I mean, when you're starting up a business, it's pretty darn simple. You want control. You want to do the thing you've always wanted to do. You want to, flip off your old boss that you quit in anger. You want to show your family what you're really made of. But after about 2 weeks of that, what you really want is cash flow, right? So what do owners want? Well, they want cash flow. So I'm going to talk about the practicalities of what owners want, but then I really want to talk about, what are the emotions, what are the goals, and what's going on behind all of this that we need to come to terms with. We need to find words for them so that we can cope better and get more of what we want. In other words, what's your reward? Your reward should be you've got a business that works for you instead of you working for your business. Now, what's the end game on that? Doesn't really matter, okay? Because if you've got a business that's working for you, you've got all sorts of choices about what your end game might be. And that's also part of the conversation, but let's take care of today. Long-term goals, you want to sell your business, get a big old fat check, buy that island you've been looking at. You want to retire in place. You want to have your family members take over, sell it to your employees. You can have those long-term goals, but what about today? So the 5 things that owners tell me they want, the conversations I have with frustrated owners starts at one of these 5 topics. And almost always the first one is cash flow. We all know that cash is king. We all know that if we don't manage our cash, it's going to suck the life out of you. It's going to be very difficult to sleep at night if you're putting off vendors, if you're having to forego your own paycheck. This is very, very stress-inducing. And the problems that got you there aren't going to be solved overnight, which just kind of compounds the frustration. So let's all agree that cash flow is the most critical thing that we have to deal with. And if everything else is going great and you've got a cash flow problem, it's probably going to be simpler to fix. But if other things are not going well, cash flow problems are compounded. So when you find yourself being upset about cash flow, let's look at the other things behind it that are also contributing to that. Because if you don't see the out for your cash flow problem, all of these other things are just going to eat you alive. So what do owners want? They want cash flow. They want profit. Hey, why not? Let's make some money. They want to be able to pay themselves. They want growth. Sometimes they want growth because it'll help their cash flow and their profit. Sometimes they want growth for growth's sakes because they have personal goals about the business. They want market share. They want accolades. Everybody wants growth. And if they don't want revenue growth, business growth. They want growth in the maturity of the business. They want the growth of improvements of the business. So growth can have a lot of different meanings. The fourth thing that they often want is that satisfaction. That what's my reward is, when do I get satisfied? Okay. When does my life get easier? What is my reward for doing all of this? The thing that comes up less often, but is almost always a key issue behind whatever else is going on, is harmony. Harmony. How are we getting along in the business? How much grief, how much anxiety, how much conflict is there? Okay. Why can't my people just get along and do their jobs? So the 5 things, what do owners want? They want cash flow, they want profit, they want growth, they want satisfaction, and they want harmony. Where's my reward? Okay. Now, if we master all of these things, if we can address these issues, right, I'm going to have a happier owner. It makes it easier to talk about goals, right? So if your goal is, in 5 years, I want to sell the company and retire, I want to be able to walk away, I want a team that can run it for me so that the buyer doesn't need me to stay around, great. That's a fairly well-defined goal. Now, you can say, I want the company to be worth X, and that's a different goal, okay? Creating a company that's sellable that you can leave from is achievable. Getting your magic number may not be, because magic numbers are emotional. A business that can run without you is objective. We can reach an objective of a business that can run without you that gives you the options of how you divest that business, how you retire, or how you move on to your next entrepreneurial endeavor. Okay. So goals are important, okay, but achievable goals are what we need to work on. The would-be nice goal is, I want my company to be worth $10 million. Well, you got $1 million company right now. I don't think it's going to be worth $10 million in 5 years. Well, what do we need to do? I need $10 million to retire. That's not how this works. Okay. There's a lot of ways there. There's a lot of ways to make $10 million. I don't have a lot of honest ways for you to do that if you have a 25-year-old company that's only doing $1 million in revenue. So let's be realistic about our objectives and our goals. So back to this owner harmony thing, or this owner happiness thing. What is going to make you happy? What do you want for your business? What are the things that are giving you grief, keeping you up at night? Okay. Come to terms with these things. Now, cash flow. Real quick, you've heard me talk about this before, but if you struggle with cash flow, some great tips right here. Short term, most of you just need to expect to get paid. You're doing a poor job of asking for deposits. You're doing a poor job of collections because you're giving the customer too many options on how they pay. You're not, they're taking advantage of your goodwill. Okay. Cash in hand is always better than receivables. And if you need to discount or factor your invoice to get paid sooner, you should do that. And it doesn't take that much money. I'd rather give away 3 or 5% of the entire job to get paid now than wait 60 or 90 days for procurement to get around to paying me. And trust me, if you're dealing with procurement, they want to pay you sooner and take that discount because it makes them look good. So always expect to get paid. Go in expecting to get it paid. And if you're afraid of losing the job because you're expecting to get paid, guess what? You probably need to lose that job and focus your energy on somewhere else. Okay. Now, if you have a short-term cash flow, you've got discretionary spending, cut back right away. Go to all your suppliers, ask for 5% better pricing. Anybody you owe money to, pick up the phone and say, I'm going to be paying you 30% of your bill right now, and I'm going to pay you another 30% in 2 weeks. I'm going to pay you another 30% in 2 weeks. I am sorry, I'm late. They're going to be, okay, that's cool, that's fine. Matter of fact, if you get to that last bill and say, hey, I could close this out if you'll give me another 5 points, otherwise it's going to be 2 more weeks, they're going to take your money. Okay. You're not going to do this all the time. And people who do this all the time, all of a sudden don't have a supply chain. But if you're good to your suppliers and you meet your obligations, they will help you out in a short-term cash flow crunch. Now, longer term, okay, lines of credit, things like that, using credit cards. Don't borrow against your line of credit unless you have the means to pay it back. So you're just creating debt. So you need to take some drastic efforts. If you can increase your line of credit in a way that you can pay it off over time, okay? Take a hard look at your products and services and pricing, okay? Long term, your pricing is probably wrong. That's why you're in a cash flow problem. It means your profit is diminished somehow. If you're not profitable, you will have cash flow problems. There's no two ways about it. Okay. The number one element of cash flow is profit. So without profit, your money runs out faster and you're relying on deposits to pay current bills because you're not making enough money. And guess what? You're going to have to stop paying yourself pretty darn soon. So cash flow problems are a warning sign. Dive into it. And you're going to have to do something that hurts in order to get out of a cash flow problem, which is why we avoid them. That's why we don't want them. Okay. But as soon as you see it, bite the bullet, do the thing. Now, profit. Okay. Profit represents the freedom to make choices. If you're making a profit, you've got choices. Okay. So if all of your jobs are profitable, if you're inherently profitable, for me, profitable means you're doing 15 to 25% operating profit. I mean, profitable. Right? Not, oh, we made 2% net profit this month. That's not profitable. That is just getting by. That's a company that's going to have a cash flow crisis in the next 6 months. You need to be making some decent profit. So, as my old boss, like I said, if we're not making a profit, it's not a lot of fun. We're in business for fun and profit. We want to have both. So when it comes to making a profit, most small business owners do not respond quickly enough to market changes. If you're not raising or adjusting or reviewing your prices constantly throughout the year, then you're not paying attention, right? You're missing opportunities. If you go, oh, we haven't raised our labor prices in 4 years. Oh my goodness, you missed 6 price increases. Now, to get where you need to be, you're going to have to make a major adjustment. Learn to make those 5%, 10% incremental adjustments over time. Remember that different positions are worth different things. Demand affects pricing. Stay on top of pricing because that is where your profit's going to come from. Now, likewise, you need to watch your costs. So when your costs change, your sell price has to change. That is how people make money. They don't make money from more revenue. They make money by optimizing the revenue that they have. Pay attention to your costs, pay attention to your pricing. You'll sleep better. Growth. All right. Most people want to grow because they're not profitable, but they know that if they grow, all of a sudden they're profitable, which means one thing: you have too much overhead. If you can't make a profit at the size you are now, you have too much overhead. Now, you probably need to improve your gross profit. You probably have a margin problem at the top line. But the fact is, if you're not inherently profitable, the first thing you have to look at is your overhead. You can't sustain. And the time it will take you to reap the benefits of fixing your pricing, okay, it will take, I mean, you've got shows in the pipeline that you've already priced. You can't change those prices now. So it may be 6 or 12 months before you start to realize improvements in your pricing scheme. What are you going to do now? Okay. If you're already unprofitable, if you're already struggling in your business, you already have a cash flow problem, growth won't solve it. Growth will be a Band-Aid, and it may be the wrong Band-Aid. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. All right. So much of being a business owner is painful. I'm sorry, cash flow is painful. Profit, man, it weighs on you all the time. Look at all this missed opportunity. You will never get that missed profit back. I understand that. Growth, we've been trying to grow for years, but we're too busy taking care of the customers we have to get new customers. Okay. These are systemic problems. Okay. You're not solving these problems because of the next two things that we're talking about today. satisfaction. Okay. Think about the times that your business was fun over the years. Write down those things. Write a few words that remind you of the period of time when your business was really fun. Now, what was fun about it? Okay. What seems to be getting in the way of that now? And what can your team do to help reverse this trend? Are the people who were fun to work with years ago not fun to work with anymore? Okay. Yeah, maybe it's time to go find out why. See what's really going on. At your next team meeting, if you're struggling with the satisfaction, I want you to start your next team meeting with a story that takes you back to the times about having fun. Don't say, guys, remember when this was fun? Say, guys, I just remembered a great story. Okay. Explain why this is a great memory for you and talk about the importance of letting those kinds of things happen again. Remember when we could do that. Okay. And then shut up. Because people will say, well, we can't do that anymore because of this or because of this. If you let the team know that, you know what, I would rather be that company and give up some of the stuff that you guys are working so hard on because that was fun. So all these systems and processes you're putting in are great. I'm sure they're fine, but somehow they're taking the fun out of it. Can we just have fun again? Help them understand what's important to you and what makes it satisfying for you. And now you need to work a little bit on what's satisfying for them and see if you can find that happy compromise. Okay? Which brings us to harmony. The desire for harmony stems from wanting to be understood. If you have lack of harmony in your team, you have people who are not understood. Maybe you are not understood. Okay? Maybe they don't understand you. Maybe you don't understand them. They don't understand each other. Being an owner is a very lonely job. You've got decisions that you have to make outside of the team. You can make decisions that will create discord. You're going to have to make choices. Can't we all just get along? Aren't we all on the same team? And the answer is no, you're not. You're the owner. You're not on the same team. There's some things that you can do to reduce the stress of being a team member in a busy, hopefully growing company. Now, some of the things that I advise my clients to do is get rid of org charts, okay? Process owners are important. A process owner chart tells me what sphere of influence. If we're working in this area, here's the process owner. It's not who works for that person. Anybody who's using their process, okay, is in their domain. We have to follow their rules. If you go to grandma's house and you're supposed to leave your shoes on the porch, guess what? If this person's the process owner and they say, leave your shoes on the porch, you leave your shoes on the porch. All right? People need to own processes and they need to be the ones responsible for improving the process, which means they have to listen to their guests, listen to the people who are using the process. Another thing that you can do is keep meetings on topic. If you have anything called a weekly production meeting, that's the problem. A weekly production meeting means that we can talk about anything, which means you're going to talk about nothing, or you're going to talk about the exact same things over again, week after week after week after week, because people like to hear themselves talk. Okay. Keep your meetings on topic. Write an agenda. Designate a meeting owner. Know what to do when you get off topic, how to table it. That's a parking lot item. You guys can talk about that offline. Okay. Figure out who hijacks meetings. It might be you. Stop the hijackers. Do not hijack meetings. Okay. If there's another meeting that should be talked about, talk about it there. I don't care if you're the owner. Okay. You do not get to hijack a meeting. Okay. Even if it's your meeting, you have to respect everyone's time. And in meetings, focus on behaviors, not personalities, right? When conflicts arise, work on the behaviors that made the problems worse. Okay? Personalities are things you cannot change in other people, but you can talk about the results of the behaviors that they employ. So we want our meetings to be more productive. And we also want to address this whole issue of why your team is always too busy. And you know why? It's because they're wearing too many hats. And why are they wearing too many hats? I don't know. How many hats are you wearing? Maybe that's part of the problem. And maybe you haven't helped them narrow down their job Okay. Because as you grow, people's job descriptions get more narrow. So have an honest conversation with yourself. How's your cash flow situation? Are you making the profit you want to do? Okay, if your cash flow is good, then work on your profit. If your profit is good, maybe you can entertain growth. Are you satisfied on a daily basis? Are you able to overcome the little adversities that happen from time to time? Or do you have this gnawing feeling that life kind of sucks? Okay. Is your team happy and are they working well together? And we've got to work on these things in this order. Can I have a harmonious team and have horrible cash flow? Not for very long, because you're not going to be able to pay them. So look at the order of these things: cash flow, profit, growth, satisfaction, so that we can get to the harmony, which will allow you to work on whatever your long-term goals might be. If you need help with that, you know where to find me. Now, speaking of long-term goals, if anything in your long-term goals involves buying a company, selling your company, holding your company, passing it on to employees or heirs, you need to take a look at my masterclass on exit strategy and succession planning, which is happening on June 10th in Orlando. Please stop by my website at trstimson.com/masterclass and learn more about it. If you're the owner or principal of a business or partners, I'd love to see you there. We're going to have a great group of people, very private meeting. Nothing will be recorded. We're going to have an open conversation about the things that you need to understand about what it takes to sell your company, what it takes to buy a company, and what it takes for you to have a successful succession plan. Thanks for listening. See you soon.
If you liked this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast, please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Mertz Crew.